Yeah. Get ready, get comfy. I ask the audience to give a proper round of applause to everyone. Yeah? Very good. So, gentlemen, welcome on stage. If anyone wants some water, let me know. Tense, stressed? Okay, no worries. So I'm very happy that actually Brave is a good platform to introduce new speakers whom we have never had before. And it's like a debut on stage. So Mantvydas, welcome.
Welcome.
How does it feel to face the audience? I know it's one of the first time for you to speak in these kind of panels, no?
Yeah, this is my first time, so I'm pretty nervous, but...
So tell me if you want some water. So, okay, to put the pressure off you, may I actually kick the panel by addressing the first question to you? I have shown shortly a slide on the e-commerce, and it seems that it's still on a growth path in our region, yes? And Venipak seems to be successfully riding this wave of growth. So, may I ask you to describe what is the Venipak's value proposition and how does that value proposition help to address the future customer needs? Because I know that fulfillment plus last mile delivery is something that you are aiming to as a competitive edge. So can you briefly touch on that?
Yes, you're actually right. And our main point of value proposition, it's not only last mile deliveries, not only fulfillment, but integrations to the e-commerce, trading. So all these aspects completes one complex solution and let us to offer to the market competitive edge to our customers. So, for example, if client entrusts us his goods, we take care of everything, from receiving goods to the warehouse, storing, picking, packing, and delivering to end customer. Soon, we will offer trading channel as well across all European biggest e-commerce markets.
Okay, but...
what does it mean, may I ask, this last service, how it will work?
So recently we acquired a Dutch wholesale company, which is wholesaler in the biggest markets, e-markets in the Europe. So we will try to offer to the market, to the Baltics. It's a pretty new thing. I don't know if someone offered this, but as our research said, nobody does right now. So we try to offer for our customers new sales channel to the Europe, so open a gate to the Europe and sell their goods across all the markets, e-markets.
And nice. Then when I pull out the data, it seems that it's still double-digit growth annually. So is it the case? You feel it, and how difficult it is to win with new customers? Because I think with this new value proposition, you're kind of aiming to attract more customers.
Of course, but the recession struck us. Manufacturers are stopping their work, cutting shifts. Eventually, it will come to us. So, expansion, offering of new services. So, this is the key for a growth for us.
Okay. And as we speak real estate, I know that your warehousing, let's say, or your terminal buildings are rather different, let's say, from typical standard big box. So how different are they?
Okay, so we can split our terminals, warehouses, into two types. So fulfillment terminal and sorting terminal. So fulfillment terminal, it's not very much different compared to standard 3PL warehouses. The key differences are we need less gates for big trucks. We need more gates for small buses, because when you are operating in e-commerce, whole goods arrives mostly with small buses. So we need less big gates for big trucks and more ramps for buses. But if we take total amount of gates, ramps combined, it's still less compared to standard 3PL warehouse. For example, now we have 16 gates for trucks, and we are using 7 of them.
Only
On daily activities.
Okay.
Yeah, another difference is we need as much accessible ground area as possible. So if you want to deliver order fast, you need to pick it fast, so it means goods should be accessible fast. So as much ground space as possible. So of course you could say rent bigger warehouse and you have more space, but no, this is not the case for us. We prefer balconies, mezzanines, to use the volume of the warehouse, the height of the warehouse, to have more accessible ground area. That area, balconies, of course, should be accessible from the main area in the warehouse with reach truck.
Okay, good. That's very interesting, because now I want to turn to Laurynas.
I ask one more question about your facility.
No, Andrejs,
No.
that's me moderating. I will give you please be patient. But that's good that you were active. Laurynas, if I remember well, and I'm pretty sure I remember well, in some conference you actually stated that e-commerce is a very small niche segment when it comes to, let's say, total industrial space. And it's not so much of interest for Sirin development, and you are better focusing on big box concepts for 3PL and standard logistics. But now hearing what Mantvydas has said, and considering that industrial space take-up and demand from occupiers in the Baltics is challenged, don't you think that if not e-commerce, then which segments will drive the growth in our business?
In some cases, hello? If I can talk a little bit of microphone. Hello? No.
Yeah.
So, in some cases, I feel like in the old market or in cycle. So in some show. Earlier we were saying that there are a lot of different drivers, like, I don't know, for investors, the yields will decrease up to 0. Then we were talking about e-commerce, that it will change, it is game changer, everything will change. Then we were talking about stock offices, they will change the life in general. So, but industrial segment or logistics segment has the structure. It is very simple and there are no changes a lot of time already. And basically what I'm very happy with is that we started to talk about real drivers of demand, about requests or needs of the client. Because in my opinion today, this is not e-commerce, this is not stock offices, this is not new or sustainability or something like that. They are not the triggers, maybe outcomes, but not the triggers. The main trigger in such uncertain situation is just client needs. And in some cases, I also feel very strange. Why in these conferences or even here, some people are very well-dressed, stylish. We are driving Mercedes and BMW, but we are sitting in Soviet Union times warehouse. Why you are not driving Zhiguli or Moskvich? But you are using old warehouse. So I think this is a good time to talk that client should define how he will compete, and I'm very glad that colleagues already started to talk what is the strategic decision, what are the strategic decisions. They want 2 types of warehouses. What specification do they need? Because in old buildings you cannot be competitive, you cannot be efficient. So this is the case. If to shortly comment, so I would say that e-commerce is not a driver too much. But I was talking about stock offices. We don't have any significant market share, and we will not have, because it's a small segment. But if you are talking about e-commerce, so basically, I also see that it's from different angle. I'm not talking about. I see it's not an e-commerce about consumption in a country or in a region. And I personally don't care how goods are coming through internet, in shopping center or superstore, or someone brings it to me through Bolt. So basically, if I want to buy a jeans, so it will come to me, and I don't care it is from e-commerce company or from fashion company in Acropolis or somewhere else. So basically, I think this e-commerce, it will just, how to say, it will change just the situation that some companies will lose a market, like companies who are doing fashion in old-fashioned ways, and the e-commerce will just gain a bit more space. But in general, needs are more or less the same.
Okay, but then when it comes to these hard needs, and I think you are touching on very important points. So you are actually developing now in Lithuania alone almost 100,000 square meters of industrial new space. Yeah, you said, okay, let's move from these Soviet time warehouses. What kind of goods you expect there to be filled in? All jeans, all apparel?
So first of all, we are doing this year 106,000 in Lithuania and Latvia. And in Lithuania, maybe about 70 or a bit more than 68,000 square meters this year. So basically, I invite people from these old Soviet time buildings to visit us, to look how people are trying to be more efficient. And if you are talking about goods, it's not just fashion or I don't know, some food storage. It's also a lot of services, light production, and so on. So everybody can find the way how he can increase efficiency. In our pre-discussion, I was very happy when we started to talk about goals. Why we are here? Why you are here? You want to have interesting ideas, or show? I don't know. It depends, but in general, you are not just sitting and spending the time.
Yeah. So
and when we're talking about companies, so the main criteria is profit or the result, and also value. How we can create it, and I think we should think from that perspective. And I'm inviting people and then businesses to think that it's a good time, very right timing, to shift from these old buildings where rents are quite high, already indexed, where public utilities and then costs, OPEX costs, were very not inefficient. So to try, because what we decided to do, even to help to renegotiate, and even we are ready to help to move from one warehouse to another one. So basically, we are following client needs, what they want.
But still, you are not telling and not answering my question. You know, which segment are these clients belonging to? Because I take that, you say 70,000 square meters in Lithuania, then more in Riga. So it means that you believe that there will be demand from these segments. Because let's take example grocery retailers. Yeah, in my eyes, the story is over. Yes, Lidl is building its own 63,000 square meters warehouse. Rimi Lietuva just announced in Elektrėnai their own build-to-own project. Maxima LT also finally looking serious with their own build-to-suit option. So only Palink chose Sirin. So what was actually lacking to attract Lidl, to attract Maxima, to attract Rimi to your warehouse instead of them building their own?
I am not taking strategic decisions for those companies. But there are a lot of more companies who choose us or other new warehouses. But in general, what I would like to say that the driver is not the segment. The driver is client need. That means if client is sitting in 20 years old building where energy efficiency is, I don't know, W, not even A or B. Mm-hmm. So in that case, he will move. And we are inviting them, and the smart people are already chosen. Not very smart, so they will do in the nearest future. Or banks will not finance them. What I heard also from other tenants that in some in partners that they are also thinking from, I don't know, 2030 to change the approach, that they will not work or will not get in partnerships with not sustainable companies, or the companies who are sitting in old buildings, they are using not renewable energy or using gas for heating, because it increases significantly the CO2 emission. So in my opinion, there will be no increase in business as such, but it will be demand for new high quality and efficient premises. There will be no expansion. We see that the pipeline is 3 times less. But there are a lot of companies. If we are talking about in Lithuania, we have stock of 1.4 million square meters, and on average, veil or contract term is 4 years. So it means more than 350,000 square meters of contracts are finishing this year. And half of it, minimum, they're sitting in 20-year-old buildings. Why?
So what you say is actually that efficient operations and cost of ownership, that what the tenants, the occupiers should be looking at.
Yes.
So we have also Andrejs, and as another representative of actually global industrial developer, VGP, yes? And I know you were very impatient to jump into stage, yeah? So now it's your time, now it's your moment. And actually, being such a global developer, really one of the biggest globally, in the Baltics you only have 3 assets and all of them in Latvia. So a bit more than the 100,000 square meters of space, and then Laurynas for Gesta just finished. Yes?
Yes.
I raised this question about the grocery stores. So did you compete for these tenants like Lidl, Maxima, Rimi?
For Rimi, yes. I think we lost to the local player. That's what we know. Maxima, we have a really long history with them, and now we are not talking to them for a while, because I think we have some like 3 or 4 LOIs signed, which eventually didn't turn into a real contract. But yeah, with Lidl, no, because I know that they're having strategy to develop themselves. So, but all other tenants are welcome, and yeah, so we are
Andrejs,
happy.
you should start to talk, because tender is not a fight. And if you lose, you should not be angry on Maxima.
No, but I mean, it's not about losing or something. I think it's just matter when some of the players delivering the product on the market, because honestly, maybe it will be not very popular opinion, I don't think we have a competition in Baltic states, really, guys. It's just we have really chilly, really environment, and really, if I having beer with my colleagues in Germany, like, let's say the tender for Rimi would be like in Germany, yeah? There would be CTP, Prologes, I don't know, Goodman, etc. And when you think that you made a good offer, tomorrow they're sending like 40% down offer, and you know, you don't understand what happened, your ass hurts, and you're losing the tender, you know, that's how it goes. Here, I mean, it's just, I think, a question of 3 things: location, 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 because if clients would like to be on Moscow streets, they won't come to Kek.
Because it seems that you are building across Central and Eastern European Europe a lot,
Yeah.
but not in the Baltics. How come?
One thing, what I learned a lot from VGP CEO Jan, is to be focused. Yeah, and you know, when I started career VGP 15 years ago, I was like, Jan, there is a possibility here and there, and I said, Andrejs, you can't marry all girls in town. Just cool down, guy. So reason why we are not developing more buildings so far, because we were focusing on finishing ongoing project. It's true that for a long time I was a lonely wolf here in Baltic states. So basically, 2 parks in Tallinn was developed by 2 guys. Me as a commercial guy, and I had back then Jan Papožič, who is a genius in engineering. And then only now we developed a team. So I was lucky to headhunt Yanis Radkovskis, who is who used to be head of real estate of Rimi. Now he is our head of operations. So now I can really focus on new commercial opportunities. He takes care of operational things, and now we're actually starting.
So you have some eagerness.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting to hear Laurynas, very interesting to hear you, Andrejs. Siim is very patient here, but before I have a question to you, actually, interesting finding I made before preparing. Actually, there is one similarity, even though Sirin and VGP are very much different. It seems that none of you have actually developed any object in Poland, or shall I say, not have invested into Poland yet. So we will come back to that one later, but before that now I would like to turn to Siim. And actually, Titanium, through your subsidiaries you provide investment into real estate, mutual fund operations, asset management and insurance business. You're also listed on Nasdaq. So no controversial questions today, but while VGP is mostly developing somewhere else, but not in the Baltics, with some exceptions, in Latvia, actually Titanium, you took a strategic decision to really look in depth into the Baltics, and quite a few years established the Baltics Real Estate Fund, yeah? So what makes this Baltic real estate market an attractive place to Finnish investors? Is it just the yield gap and lack of competition, or something else?
Yeah, maybe if I may just give a little bit of background. So what we do is we have this open-ended real estate fund, and we are collecting money from Finnish investors and of course trying to invest it to the Baltic real estate. And so far we have been operational for a bit less than 2 years. We have collected over 100 million from over 1,700 investors. And for them, the sales pitch has been very, very simple. Basically 2 key takeaways. We believe in the Baltic economies. Baltic states are in the European Union. They share the same currency. Through European Union comes also the sort of same kind of legislation base, and nowadays, 2 years ago, this wasn't so relevant, but now we have to also mention that these are NATO countries. And what comes to real estate, then there's this premium yield gap, 200 to 300 basis points, and that is sort of the risk premium that our investors seem to appreciate. So as long as we can see these fundamentals existing, we see appetite from our investors, and then we will be active in the market.
Okay, and it seems that at least today, almost 2 years after start of the fund, logistics and manufacturing make up quite substantial portion of your fund. Was this by coincidence, or was this really on purpose because the yields were, let's say, higher than in other asset classes?
Today, that is more or less coincidence. In the beginning, when you're buying single assets, that the distributions and allocations, they will shift from asset to asset quite a lot. Although I have to mention that what we are aiming to give our investors is in the long term 7% after costs, meaning that we will have to have a well-diversified portfolio. Mm-hmm. And in that portfolio, we are expecting industrial and logistics properties to yield a bit more than, for example, residential and offices.
Okay, oh, that's very interesting to know. So means that no particular focus on industrial logistics like other dedicated funds, but more, let's say, a diversified strategy, and you believe in the market as such more than just, let's say, in one asset class, okay? Of course, let's say, returns on investment are very much driven by the rent rates, yeah, and here I want to come back to Laurynas maybe. I try to show during the presentation that rent rates are on the rise across Europe, fueled, of course, by higher construction costs. So you need to keep your margin, higher borrowing cost. But then to what extent do you believe rent rise remains sustainable? And then it seems that in Poland, they are much lower. So how not to lose our Baltic occupiers like Venipak to Poland?
I think there are times of surprises. In some cases, they are very nice and gentle, in some cases not. So when we are talking about rent prices, I think the prices will not increase anymore. It is increased by 25% during last, I don't know, 5 years. If we are talking about the previous rent price was 4, right now it's 5. I think almost the same situation is in Latvia, and maybe current rent price is a bit lower, but the difference is almost the same. And basically what we should do, so we should focus on ourselves. We should propose efficient premises, one thing, for a tenant, and he should calculate, because tenants can allow even to pay more if he will calculate cost per pallet annual, but not per square meter a month. One thing, another thing is our homework also. We should talk with the banks I hope banks also will change their financing policy and 20-year-old building will not get the same margin and the conditions as new ones. And we should focus on our costs, construction costs, because in Poland rents are cheaper because of basically construction costs. They care more about costs because if I remember discussions last year, so nobody will care about, I don't know, then the market was skyrocketing, so everybody just were thinking how to make turnover, but nobody care about how to make negotiations because it's waste of time. And right now it's time to negotiate. It's a bit too late if you have not done homework before, but in general, I think cost management, financing, and client needs. And I agree with Andrejs that location is very important. I disagree that there is no competition because when we are talking about market size, so all countries, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia together are less than Finland. And we have quite a lot of players, but it's a good question why VGP is not developing if there are no competition. But in general, I invite you, Andrejs, to start development in Estonia. We will do this next year, so let's start to compete in that country. Basically, but if to be
Okay.
if to be back on prices, so I would like my expectation is that prices will remain stable, or in some cases will have permanent lower price when some parks will have problems with vacancy. Basically, because of costs, I think of financing and construction, the price is already stable for €5 and it will remain. Maybe for some build-to-suits, for some additional needs, for some, as Venipak said, for some a lot of gates or something like that, so the price could be higher. But in general, so we are expecting a bit even price decrease. But what we see also, if we don't have vacancies, so we will not decrease the price. And the challenge is not because of low vacancy. Challenge is because of there is no demand. Because there are a lot of developers who are ready to develop if we have 10, 20 or 30% pre-leases. But right now it's impossible to get them. We started 106,000 without any pre-lease. Right now we have about 38% rented out. In some cases more, in some cases less, but in general. So I think that it's a good timing to switch from old to new. And this is time when you can bargain quite a lot.
Okay, so I captured one word in your argument, which was vacancy. We'll come back to that shortly. But before we go there, I still want to ask Mantvydas about what's Venipak point of view on Poland, and because actually you will now expand it through, I would say, M&A, with this platform. So any plans, let's say, to also do physical operations in Poland, or you use this platform?
Actually, recently we have started operations in Poland. So we are using outsource, and I want to oppose to Laurynas and you about rental prices in Poland, because we made the research and the price level was pretty much the same like Sirin offers in Lithuania.
We just rented out 30,000 square meters near Poznan, so the price is 20% less. So you should challenge your team who were bargaining.
No, we were looking into Warsaw area.
Okay, so I have some surprises ready for the audience and for the panel. Actually, something that we were not aware before the discussion. As Laurynas mentioned, this vacancy. So I pulled out some data in preparation for this panel, actually from the biggest developers globally, out of their latest annual reports. Yeah. So, and here you can see, and I hope the audience also can see pretty well, 95% and more, 99, even 99% of occupancy. Yeah, what we are declaring. Of course, Sirinas, Lauryna, you are not public. What number should I put for you?
First of all, before reading numbers, you should know the context. If we are talking about CTP, if I am correctly, we own or manage 10 million square meters. So if we are talking about vacancy of 10 million, 5% of 10 million, so it is 500,000 square meters there empty. So, and out of this portfolio, we are adding each year about 1 or 2 million. So, so it's difficult to compare these numbers. If we are talking about our numbers, so we just this year we already finished 16 and 28, so that means 45,000 square meters additional on top. So out of 300,000, I think we have about 25,000 square meters empty. Most of them we are in Riga because we just last week commenced 28,000 square meters there. In general, we are planning to rent it out until the end of the year.
So by the end of the year, 99%, yeah?
No, we will bring to the market additional 60,000.
No, but considering the already built ones, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, because VGP, Andrejs, I looked at the global number aggregated.
Can I talk?
Yeah, sure,
Yes,
sure, please.
that's you see 98.5. That's the answer why we are not developing something new. Because really, we in VGP we are about to focus finishing things, and also it comes to Kekava when there is a project of 60,000. Rimi left, it's 23. So during last few years, I signed lease agreements in Kekava alone for 42,000 square meters because there was some rotation. So that's the thing: get things done, and then you move forward. So that's why we have 98.5.
Okay, but
So this is why you're pushing us. In general, there is a lot of vacancy during the year. And as Andrei said, he has done amazing work, like to rent out 40,000 square meters alone. And in one project, basically, is quite huge challenge. And because of that, it's not very easy. And I think because of that, we have a lot of travelers to Poland, where people are looking for better investment conditions, and I'm very glad because there is more space for us here in Lithuania.
But you say, actually what you both are saying, you and Andrejs are saying that there is actually more vacancy because, you know, you can develop new space. Actually, I want to look to the opposite, and may I put another slide?
Okay.
And let's discuss, is there a problem or not? Because it seems that, you know, if normal times, in good times, in growth phase, what we hit 99%, but your tenants actually are screaming to sublease these plots, no? Isn't it the case? Or to what extent it is?
I can start. First of all, I disagree. This is a question of supply chain management, how you manage your stock, because if we are talking about main driver of vacancy or bad times today is lower consumption. So if consumption, but not if the consumption is significantly decreased. So everybody is talking, but not in public, but with a glass of wine, everybody saying that it is like this. Everybody can read about transportation sector. It's also fell down, I don't know, by 20 or 15%. So that means that there is less demand. And that means companies who are doing logistics. I wanted to answer about the main clients. So basically, 50% of them, they are logistics, retailers, and 20 divided by stock offices, I don't know, light industry and everything else. So basically, what I wanted to say that companies have, such companies who met these challenges regarding the demand, they have free space. Companies who have done their homework quite well and they are competitive, so they have a lot of plans to expand. But basically, what I wanted to say that in Vilnius, we are opening next month warehouse in 30,000 square meters. Basically, there is not on statistic, but how many companies are ready to sign the contract. It will be in the vacancy next month, 30,000 square meters. How many companies are ready to sign today? I don't know.
Okay, let's see. So thanks, Laurynas. Andrejs, what's your point of view on that one? Is that there a problem of hidden vacancy that you're, okay, you have tenants?
Demand or hidden vacancy.
Okay. Siim, do you see this as a strategic risk when doing asset selection? Do you somehow measure it, you know, to what extent tenants? Because, you know, that's a financial stress if the tenant is leasing space and, you know, actually not using it 100% efficiently.
Absolutely, we try to evaluate this risk as good as we can. In our case, we have two industrial assets. Both were done with sale and leaseback deals, and they have only one tenant. Meaning that either your occupancy is 100% or it's 0%. and that's a completely different animal than owning, for example, 500 apartments. And therefore, what comes to these deals, when we have basically negotiated very long lease agreements, the analysis revolves a lot around the company itself, how they are doing, because you're sort of buying their business and becoming their long-term partner, and that is very much more difficult than to just analyze real estate and to, for example, technical due diligence.
So yeah, Laurynas,
I would like to add a bit, if you will look for these industrial numbers. So furniture market, there are a lot of production companies who are working for IKEA. I think at the end of the year we will find a lot of premises for sublease. Because what we see and then hear from politicians that there are some applications to give some subsidies and so on. So furniture market will be very challenging in the nearest future. And I think it will be possible in these cases if you want to have sublease, not tailor-made solution, not so efficient, so and then it will be possible to rent it out.
Okay. So, but actually, from what I hear, so Siim, either let's say 100% occupancy, and hopefully you did a proper due diligence. Then for Laurynas, for Andrejs, in terms of your tenants, you weight this risk as minimal. Probably no many furniture actually stocks in your warehouses.
When I talked about homework, so it's very important. In our case, we have our different approach. We are looking for clients, and when we starting cooperation, so when we are trying to track the financial ability to pay the obligations, rent, OPEX, investments, CAPEX, or something like that. So afterwards, we should look. So basically, it's a bit different model, but in general, client stability is very important for us too.
Okay, good. Mantvydas, what about you? So I take that off. But when it comes, let's say, to planning your growth, how much of free space you usually leave yourselves? You plan what, 1, 2, 3 years in advance in terms of warehouse internal space?
Yes, in terms of warehouse, we're planning at least for 2 years in advance. Okay. For fulfillment, for sorting center, sorting terminal, we have plans for upcoming 10 years.
Okay. So what's your, let's say, strategic plan? Because I think you are kind of an incognito player in the market a little bit, yeah? At one time you bought a land plot, you sold it with a good profit, you were on a lease market. Now it seems that you are preparing a project to have a building owned by yourself. So what's the way to market? And we also have actually a question in the audience from that.
Yeah, so finally we are preparing to build our sorting terminal this time for real. And now we are in the project stage. We designed a sorting terminal in Vilnius on our own according to our needs. So, I didn't mention before differences of sorting terminal. So it usually has a, weird shape like letter E or letter H. So we designed the terminal on our own, and we are expecting to get a permission from authorities this summer to build it. Who will build it? We don't know yet.
Yeah, but then that's actually the question from Kaspars in the audience, and that's a question actually to Laurynas and Andrejs to you. At least to Kaspars, it seems that you are not so aggressive in providing this kind of build-to-suit options. Let's say you are focusing on having a tenant and then building a big box, and Laurynas, you as well. So why not so much interest? Do you consider this as a very specific building which would be not liquid in the market later on, or?
No, we love build-to-suit, especially strange-shaped buildings. We love it. The problem is that we were participating in some tenders in Latvia for the terminals, in fact, and the pricing was, I think, 20% above the cheapest options. And we think it's not reasonable because it can't be. Someone was really playing on a tiny margins, and I think we left the tender. Yeah? And the reason why we left, because we see it's really big risk. And I think when the financing cost went up, we understood that it was a really good decision. So no, we are in a build-to-suit field, and if you would consider some long-term lease in exchange to nice guarantee, invite me and Laurynas and let us.
But I'm not sure if Mantvydas should invite Laurynas.
If we are talking about build-to-suits, I think this year we applied for more than 15 tenders. I would not say that we are not participating, and I know that Andrejs is participating too. I think the quality of tenders, in some cases we have some questions. So one thing, because in some cases it should be done a lot of homework even before. And in some cases, different companies apply different calculations due to lack of experience in some cases, and then the future tenant have challenges to increase the price. Basically, I think this is the case. But in general, I think these tenders are good. We always want to participate. I'm always saying that we are ready to give a proposal for any type of premises, of warehouse premises. It could be single unit, lot, or a big box or build-to-suit. We are ready to propose and we are ready to discuss. In general, I think we have a bit lack of this planning and preparation stage in some cases.
Okay, understand?
I fully agree. That's actually a good point. And maybe there's a comment to Kaspars, who is asking the question, because my little bit comment would be that sometimes the timing is like, okay, here's a tender and you need to submit first offer in 2 weeks. I mean, for some build-to-suit, project on land plots which you don't know, and sometimes the timing is not sufficient to fully prepare. Yeah, and we are not so opportunistic just to drop the offers which we are not ready to commit afterwards if it moves soon. So I agree with Laurynas that sometimes someone need to be better prepared.
So
because if you are not, we are not like a simple construction company who can give a, I don't know, budget and then try to, during adding the additional works to increase the price. So basically what Andrejs is saying, my advice for future, if someone is doing tender, to give a bit more time for companies, because it's really, if you want to get a good price, so companies like us should make inside tender and to have good understanding about budget. But one thing else, what is important, not just timing, but also your homework about technology, about your needs, about the land plot. Because in some cases, we know that land plot even before, and we are saying that that land plot is, too expensive because of soil or ground or shape or something like that. But no, just after tender, we are saying, oh no, in that land plot is too expensive. Let's switch to another one. But someone should make that work. So because of that, so this tendering is quite tricky. But I think it's a good idea to make a tenders, because then the tenant can have a best price and can understand what kind of developer will do it. And I'm very happy with that free money era is over. And in some cases, if some consultants or funds winning the tender to build a warehouse like in Estonia, Rimi, so in that case, it is postponed already a few times because so I don't know, investors in very few situations have experience to develop it.
Okay.
And when we are looking, I don't know, for partners, for financing, for permitting, and so on, and then in that case, you are suffering with terms. This was the case in Italian, I think.
So Mantvydas, I hope we are doing a good job kind of convincing you to go into into lease option. But still question to Siim, because you mentioned you have a single tenant premises in industrial logistics. What's your view in terms of liquidity? This kind of terminal buildings, different shape, does this add a significant risk on top in terms of, let's say, alternative use, or you weight it as a, let's say, acceptable and could have it in your portfolio?
Well, I think there are few ways to sort of approach this. Of course, the more catered certain building is to a certain user, the more there you have leasing risk when the lease agreement ends, and also exit risk what comes to the value of the building. But of course, if there's a very strong tenant, very long lease agreement, then let's discuss.
But then, as we still have a couple of minutes left, I think one important question I want to raise to all of you, and for me this is really a dilemma, because if I look into the market, let's say across the Baltics, I still see that there is a very big tendency for the occupiers of a building actually also to own the asset in their balance sheet. And let's say in this way they are kind of literally accepting, let's say, this 6, 7, 8% return on the property instead of making much more on their main business. So what should we do all together to really prove to the market that, let's say, opening your real estate assets and giving it to the real estate professionals is really the way to go?
Yeah, we can definitely see that this trend is very prevalent in Finland. The companies are willing to basically get their capital out of the buildings to use for the operations. That probably makes sense because they earn more profit there. Of course, they lose some decision-making power for the future, but for many companies that they have evaluated the risk and they are happy with it. And also one thing, in case these companies are ever willing to sort of sell their business, then usually investors are not so interested about the real estate itself. So it might make sense to sell them already in advance, not to get a discount for the real estate properties.
Vytis, I think you are sort of looking unique selling points for yourself for future tenants and sales lease back. I think I would touch a bit different angle. I think it's also about client needs. Yeah, come back to client needs. If a company owns his or have a warehouse, its warehouse, let's say about 5 or 10 or 20,000 square meters. What to do with that warehouse after 10 years if you will expand? No chance to expand without significant capex. But if you have sales leaseback, after 10 years you can just, if the contract ends, you can switch to new one, or negotiate the price, or shrink your needs, or expand your needs. So it's very easy. So we should find the selling points, and then I think that if we are selling, if the owner is selling his premises, so in that case he gets more flexibility for the future and for the business. And yes, I understand strategic decisions and safety, but in general also it's a question of capital, question of investments, and so on. So we should find look more about client needs. But in general, I think what I would say, and I did not heard in these discussions everywhere around, that I think I could state and bet that it's very good time to sell anything, because after 2-3 months the price will be much lower due to some, I don't know, due current situation in Sweden, what we heard about that it's not the end about this how to say, interest increase. And I think these deals what have happened in Lithuania during last month, 2 months I think. So it was very smart decisions because we got very good price compared what could we get after 2 or 3 months or 5 months at the end of the year.
Okay,
so basically it's time if you want to have clients, I think it's time to sell the assets, because in the future it will be very difficult. If you don't want to sell during next 5 or 3 years, then it's a recommendation to keep. But if you have doubts, so it's better to get good price today, because tomorrow, today's price will not be available anymore.
Laurynas is very bearish. Andrejs, you have anything to add in terms of ownership versus lease?
Well, it depends on a tenant, of course. We always happy when tenants choosing lease options, so we have some opportunity. But I think, the time when companies, were doing everything. It was when I started with VGP. It was really typical that if you sell pasta, for example, you would normally do some real estate project, because you have cash and etc. And when we entering market, everyone said, hey, there is no need for a new player. Everyone would build like stay-alone property for themselves, and who need this big box concept? You're crazy. Yeah, but we see now, but companies more focusing on their core business rather than on development or some science thing. So yeah, I like this.
So Mantvydas, lease or ownership?
Lease.
Personally, lease, but from the company's point of view, we didn't decide yet, so we are a little bit confused. So maybe Laurynas or Andrejs will guide us.
Very good. So yeah, our time is actually up. So I now will invite you to really summarize the discussion, and for that I have prepared 4 sentences, 4 beginnings of the sentences, which are actually not known to the panelists, and I will invite you to summarize it one by one. Okay? So let's start. Let's start maybe Mantvydas from you, and I put it on a screen for everyone so that everyone can see. And please summarize the sentence. So to stay competitive in our market at Venipak, we must
Be inventive and offer new services all the time.
be inventive and offer new services all the time. Okay. Andrejs, I promise until the next Brave conference in 2024, our company VGP will...
We'll compete with Laurynas in Estonia. It's agreed already.
Very good.
He asked for it.
Laurynas, then for you, the single most important advice you could give to the audience today is?
To shift from old premises to new ones.
Very good. To shift from old to the new ones.
And besides, small comment. So our discussion is not sustainable. I was waiting for your questions because we don't have this gender equality.
Not this year.
You also should think about it during next discussions.
Okay, very good. That's our advice for the next year. Siim, let's finish with the question. The key question in logistics and industrial real estate we should be asking ourselves is?
I guess what is the new normal after the interest rates balance out, and what's going to happen with the values?
That's it. Okay.
We will see.
Give a round of applause to the panelists. Thank you very much.